All right, so let's just dive into this. I'm going to be showing how to enter a HUD statement into QuickBooks. So for any real estate investors out there watching this video, whenever you purchase a property, you are given a HUD statement, and there's a lot of different numbers on there. And it's really important that you enter them in correctly in your bookkeeping software. That way you're tracking the income and expenses associated with that property and the loan associated with that property correctly. Um, just like anything with accounting, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. If you follow these instructions, you should be in a good place. So this is a HUD statement. This is, I just put in some generic information here. I'll show you how to enter this into QuickBooks. Okay, so you've got the name, you've got the seller, you've got the lending company, the property address should be right here, the settlement date, all of that stuff. Kind of the details here with the property. So first step is let's go to QuickBooks here. We're going to load that up. Okay. So easiest way to do this is to make a journal entry. In fact, I don't even know if there's another way to really do this other than making a journal entry. So if you're not comfortable with journal entries, either reach out to me, I can help you, or watch this video, rerun it a couple times, rewatch it a couple times, and make sure you get comfortable with it because you're going to have to know how to do this to properly enter the HUD. So first things first, let's make sure we enter the correct date here. So we're going to put 4/10/25. I like to name this the property address. So the journal entry number, I'm going to do 123 Main. And then QuickBooks doesn't allow you to put a lot of information up here. There's a certain number of characters. So I usually just put perch for purchase. And then if it's a sale, I would just put sale. So in this case, I'm going to put perch. All right. So we are purchasing 123 Main Street in Hershey. What we need to do is add that as an asset, right? We're purchasing the property, that's an asset. So we hit add new here for a new account. The account name is going to be 123 Main Street. Okay. That's the account name, right? We don't need to put the whole address. It's just the name of it's putting the piece of property on our books. So this is going to be a fixed asset. Okay. So the account type is fixed asset. Now we would choose buildings here since we're purchasing a property. Okay. Don't worry about anything else here. You need the name, you need the asset type, and that's it. Detail type. So we'll go ahead and save that. So now we have an account here for our property. We are going to debit the contract sales price for 150. So 150. And then I come in here and type in contract sales price. Okay. The more information you can give, the better. What you want to do is then create a class for 123 Main Street. Okay. So 123 Main Street. And again, what this is doing when you go into your QuickBooks bank feed and you're coding, say, let's say you're rehabbing this property and you have Lowe's and Home Depot transactions coming through. You want to code those specifically for that property. So you would put Lowe's expense or Lowe's as the payee, and you would put job supplies as the category, and then the class is going to be 123 Main Street. Then you can run reports just for your specific properties and see what your expenses are, what your income is. So very important to have that. So anyways, let's create the class 123 Main Street, and we'll assign it to that journal, to this part of the journal entry. So now we need to enter the settlement charges. So those we are going to, again, we're going to debit the asset. So we debit the asset for 4600 in this case, and that's going to be settlement charges. Okay, those always get capitalized, meaning we're debiting them against the asset. So we always want to capitalize those. They're part of purchasing the asset. They're part of acquiring it, right? Okay, next we need to enter the taxes. So you can see we have city taxes and county taxes, both $200. So if we don't already have an account here, we do. We have taxes and license. You might want to call this, property taxes, taxes and license is okay. This is just an example, but we are going to want to debit $200 here, and then I'll just put city tax. You could combine these if you want to. I like to split it out just to stay organized. So I'll do another 200 here and call it county tax. Okay. And then again, remember we want to assign our class. That way, if we're looking at our reports, we know where each dollar's going into which property. So a quick gut check here. We have the gross amount due from the borrower is 155. You can see here we've got 155. So we know we entered everything correctly as far as the debits go. Now we're going to be doing the credit side. We're going to make a journal. We're going to make an account rather for the loan. So what I like to do is come in here. We'll hit add new. The account name is going to be the same as the asset name, 123 Main Street. And then I just call it loan. You can call it mortgage. You can be as detailed here as you want. I like to just call it loan, or if it's a refi, I'll call it loan. And once it's refied, I'll call it refi. But in this case, we're just going to call it the loan. The account type is going to be a long-term liability, and we do notes payable. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. So now we have our loan account. Let's look here at what the balance should be. So we're getting a mortgage here of 175. So let's enter 175. And I'll usually put loan. Then I like to put the lender. So up here, XYZ lending. You don't have to do this, but again, more detail, the better. XYZ lending. 123 Main Street. Okay. So now we've got the loan. We've got the asset here entered. You can see on here we also have earnest money deposit or an EMD. So normally how this works, if you're doing your bookkeeping and you look at the bank feed, you will see an EMD come out, right? So you'll have written that check maybe a month ago, a couple weeks ago for $1,000. You would want to code that to your EMD asset account, okay? So when you write that check, you're going to code it to the EMD asset account, which I'll show you how to create that. And then in this example, we're just going to put the $1,000 there. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's go ahead and create an EMD account. So EMD, and then I'll put earnest money deposit. And then we'll do EMD in parentheses. Okay, so let's make this an asset account. We'll do a current asset account. And then other current assets. So now you have your EMD, okay? Because this is essentially money that's going to be paid back to you, right? So in this example, we are going to enter the $1,000 here as a credit. So anytime you're doing the journal entry for a HUD, you should 99% of the time you're going to be crediting this EMD amount. Now, if you go into QuickBooks, right, into your bank feed, what I was saying earlier. So let's go bank feed. Out of that. Let's just pretend that this is the $1,000 for the earnest money deposit. So this is where we would want to also code it to that same exact account because they're canceling out, right? You're paying that money, assuming you're going to get it back, and then you get it back at closing. So by coding it to that same account, they're canceling out, right? Money went out of your pocket, right back into your pocket. It's not really technically going anywhere. So you would code this to the EMD account, earnest money deposit, put your class 123 Main Street, right? So those two transactions will cancel out. This is part one. When you write it a couple weeks prior, a month prior, code it this way. And then when you're making the journal entry, you're canceling it out when you credit it here. So let's add our class here. Okay. To scroll down here to the bottom. So we have 21,000 here that's checked to the borrower. So that box is checked to the borrower. So that means it's going to be a debit. Okay. So we are going to do checking, assuming that this gets deposited to the checking account, whatever account you have this deposited to, that's the account that you're going to debit. If we did everything right, this should auto populate here in QuickBooks for you for the amount. Let's go ahead here and put cash at closing. And up here, we want to put EMD, right? That's the earnest money deposit. And 123 Main Street. Okay. So that's how we want to enter the HUD. You can see everything here ties out. These numbers should match. They should match exactly with what's in the HUD. Last step that you want to do is download this, save it as an attachment. That'll help you in the future if you have any questions or aren't sure what the journal entry was, where your HUD's at, attach it here and save it out. And that's how you enter a HUD into QuickBooks. But yeah, reach out if you guys have any questions on this. It's not super hard once you've done it a few times, but the first few times you do it can definitely, you can start going cross-eyed looking at all the numbers. But reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.